Hello pals, it is yet another day in the hellscape that is planet Earth. I'm sorry to report we have some new bullshit on our hands today. I don't really know how to put this, but we need to talk about boy moms. Thankfully, the situations I grew up in, being an only child and the majority of my friends' parents being normal parents, as far as I knew back then, and I don't really want to know more to be honest, I never experienced firsthand a boy mom. And right now I'm thanking God for that, because the more I know, the more I am deeply troubled and also dismayed. Now, it's not unpopular for us to see really weird characteristics being turned into a whole personality trait. I think that's a pretty typical thing with social media. Like every so often, we'll see a girly go to Starbucks, she'll get a certain type of coffee, and all of a sudden that coffee is her entire personality. Now, there's something to be said about the fact that oftentimes all of this is gendered, and we can have a discussion about that. We're not doing that right now, but we can talk about it, how often it's the neutral makeup girlies, it's the fucking cappuccino girlies, if that's even a thing. I don't know. Regardless, boy moms. I'm already losing my entire shit just thinking about this. Researching this made me uncomfortable for a lot of reasons that I'm sure Freud would love to investigate, but I found a couple articles about this. A lot of the articles I found weren't exactly from reputable sources, and when I say reputable sources, I was looking for sources that are not particularly politically biased. A lot of these sources were feminist magazines, which, if that's what you want to read, go off, but we know that they're gonna have a very particular type of lens, whereas some of these sources were like People, and it's like, do we really want to trust People with our news? Like, aside from paparazzi pictures, is it worth anything? I don't know. I haven't opened to People since like the 2000s. So I'm gonna just detail a little bit of what a boy mom is, and then I'm gonna show you this account that has gone viral on Twitter, maybe on TikTok, and I'm honestly perturbed by what I've seen on there, because it really is one of those things where you can just see the negative outcomes before they happen. I'm not sure I feel particularly familiar with the way that mothers, and it is always mothers, talk about their parenting of boys as though that the relationship were defined by gender. Some of you will no doubt have clicked into the strange world of hashtag boy mom and hashtag mother of boys on social media. My goodness, but aren't there a lot of sports clothes, skateboards, and miniature suits out there, as well as plenty of pseudo-philosophical captions about rest and light while someone sits on a hill or lies on a beach? This is the internet after all. From my sneaky burrowings into that community, I found a fair bit of performed masculinity, whether that's an outfit, woodland settings, or martial arts poses. And that, I think, is more of an example of social conditioning than intrinsic mammalian behavior. I have to admit that I do sometimes think of the people who will reap the benefits of my work when hopefully my adult son picks up his own towel and has an emotional vocabulary above 6 words. And I do wonder about some of those early caregiver relationships with the men who broke my heart and exploited my body. But I'm not quite ready to adopt wholesale the definition of boy mom, the definition according to Urban Dictionary being a mother who is emotionally incestuous with her sons. So as you all can imagine, it was a harrowing experience to be in the TikTok comments, seeing people meme, seeing silly shit, and then seeing the terms emotional incest put together. Which, listen, I'm not here to label anything, I'm just telling you what people are saying. I'm no psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, none of that. So whether this is emotional incest, whether that's even a thing, I don't even want to go into, because I can list all the articles for you, but still, I'm not the source for that. I don't have that level of knowledge, and I don't feel comfortable saying what's what on that. Will I say it is creepy? Will I say that it adds up to me? Yeah. So I'm going to show you a clip, and then I'm going to show you some screenshots. Now, the reason why is children are very involved in this content creators' content. And you guys know I don't like showing minors on here if I can avoid it. So if I show any TikToks, it's just going to be the mom or the dad or whatever. And other than that, I'm just going to show you screenshots with the text so you have the context minus the video. All I'm going to say is, have you ever watched a horror movie, or any type of movie, but horror is the one that comes to mind, who knows why, where there's a daughter and the dad is like weirdly protective of her and weirdly protective of her virginity, to the point where you're kind of like, This feels weird. There's something to be said about being protective of virginity back in the day when virginity decided if you were marryable, whether you could have a family that was well reputed, blah, 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 sure. But I think we've all also seen movies where we're like, this is too much, this is too weird, this is too big of an overlap of family and sex that really just should remain separate to a degree, obviously. Education, obsession, two different things. Anyway, so this is the one that I unfortunately came across that tipped me off to like, okay, so this is what we're gonna be dealing with. So the song Say It Ain't So is playing in the background, copyright, we all know how that works. So when I saw this clip, I was already a little bit weirded out, more than a little bit. It was just jarring because, I mean, I'm not a mom, so I don't relate to any mom issue. It's weird to me that your kid is like 7 and you're thinking about when he gets married, if it's to a woman, and he gets married and you're gonna already have a problem with being the mother-in-law of a woman who you might love, a woman who you might view as a daughter. Like, you're already jumping all of these little steps where I'm like, how did we go from this kid is 7 and unmarried, as any 7-year-old should be, and now we're at he married someone that I don't like, and now I have to be a girl mom because I'm the mother-in-law of this woman that I don't like. How do you get there? Because even trying the unhinged little jumps, I don't get there. Like I said, I'm not a mom, so maybe I'm missing some big thing. I think every parent is worried for their children's well-being, but I think it gets really weird when you come up with these scenarios based on your kid's future, which might very well be in at least 11 years. Like, let's say at least when they're 18, right? So I'm confused about that. The other thing was that I checked the comments to see what the deal was. And when you see this, she's in love with being a boy mom, right? So from my understanding, and this was an assumption on my part, so it's probably my mistake, I was like, oh, okay, so she has a boy or multiple boys, right? Because here, there seems to be a very clear bias against having daughters of any type. Like, I mean, if you don't want a daughter-in-law, am I gonna believe that you want an actual daughter? Probably not. Then again, your real daughters couldn't marry your son and therefore take him away from you, so maybe I'm missing some psychological jump there. Regardless, it turns out this woman has 3 whole daughters, which was alarming to me because I'm like, okay, then what's the narrative in this household around the daughters? Because it's like, does she tell her daughters, oh yeah, mother-in-laws are gonna hate you? You know, how do you make those two things add up in a household? So a lot of this person's TikToks are very family centric. And like I said, I don't like showing kids. I'm shit at blurring faces, so we're not doing that. But a lot of these TikToks are, you know, very lighthearted family things. Like there's this one that says, where you're in the last year of your 30s, but you still plan pool parties for your birthday. Very lighthearted, very whatever, which almost makes it more alarming to me to have these deeply contrasting things, because it would be kind of like me today posting about a murderer or a pedophile, and then tomorrow I'm posting about how to make good frosting for your cupcakes. It's a little bit of whiplash. So that was surprising to me, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a very wide array of content. Under this TikTok about being a boy mom and realizing you're gonna be the mother-in-law, someone said, stop competing with your child's future spouse. It's weird, go to therapy, stop with the compulsory heterosexuality. So that's another thing that was coming up here a lot, was the compulsory heterosexuality. And while I think that is a problem, I also feel like it's not the primary problem, for the simple reason that this kid is gonna have a rough fucking time with family dynamics. If this kid, a boy, grows up and marries a woman the same way that if he grows up and marries a man or is in any other type of relationship, there's probably gonna be a difference. I don't feel qualified to say what that difference is, but I do think that the general heaviness they're gonna feel around having someone that they're in a relationship with that's not the mother is really gonna be the center focus. I think any type of enforced sexuality on children is messy, because I think it's more confusing than anything, so you should just let them be kids and figure shit out when it's time to. But Like I said, not a mom, so don't listen to me on that, I guess. Then someone said, can we stop using terms like boy mom or girl dad, please? Just be normal parents. I have to agree with this one because it puts a very weird focus on the gender of the parent versus the gender of the child. And I'm like, why does there have to be a massive difference? Why does there have to be this massive, massive difference? And of course, you can act differently. You run your household as you see fit. But does it have to be this massive statement of a difference? I guess that's kind of what I'm missing here. So then someone said, aren't you someone's daughter-in-law? That one made me laugh because that is a good point. Someone said Freud would love this one, which honestly, someone else said, so you're like into your son or what? The allegations have not really been beaten about being into her son, in love with her son, or having some weird thing going on psychologically there, because there's this, I couldn't find this precise video. Then again, there's so many videos and reels, but here it says, when you married an affectionate man and your son acts just like him. Now, if this were an isolated TikTok, I still think people would probably interpret it weirdly. But it's not an isolated TikTok, it's not an isolated reel, it's a reel from the same account that is prematurely mad at your son's potentially soon-to-be hypothetical wife. And that's why people are interpreting this weirdly, because it's like you're already being kind of outside of the norm of what a lot of people would call healthy with your son, and then you're kind of backing it up with, oh, my son is like my husband and the relationship with the son is perceived as weird. You know, people are gonna do a 1+1. Now, do I think any of this is necessarily as perverse as the internet sees it right now, and myself included, because a lot of this does not come off well in terms of optics. But as we know, optics don't always align with reality, so I don't want to jump the gun and say what's what. I am gonna say, on an optics level, none of this looks good, a lot of this looks creepy, and a lot of this almost hits me as intentional, and we go to the usual topic with TikTok, Reels, Instagram, whatever, is that we're talking about this right now, but realistically, it's not us who are gonna be paying for it, it's gonna be you, and more importantly, your kids, your family, the people who have to deal with whatever occurs after these TikToks, whatever, go viral. So it always comes back to the same conversation of like, yeah, you claim you're such an XYZ, you're such a boy mom, but also isn't part of being a boy mom protecting your kid and putting your kids on social media is already arguably dangerous, let alone when you make them the main character of a fictional story that is that of them getting married and you not liking your daughter-in-law. So there's just a lot to be said there, and I think a lot of this is just alarming and harmful, like the majority of stereotypes are, because they're forced upon people. And if you choose to accept a stereotype in your life for yourself, that's your thing. When you choose it for yourself and someone else, that's when it becomes scary, specifically when the other person cannot consent. So the other thing that's worth noticing is that a lot of the TikToks from this creator mention having another child, right? Which is none of our business and nobody would care if there weren't the massive focus on the clear not wanting of having another girl. So the having another child is very much the asterisk of, yes, as far as we can understand via the optics, they want to have another child, specifically the wife, because she runs this account, as far as we know. She wants to have another child so long as it's not a girl, which already I think puts a weird kind of stress, I'm sure on your own body, but on the people around you. Because it's like, if you're so dead set on knowing you for sure would hate to have a girl, if you do end up getting pregnant and having a girl, you're gonna have a really hard choice to make there between deciding if you're gonna get over your dislike for that, which probably involves years of therapy, or if you're gonna go another medical route, if you get what I'm saying. And that also is devastating. So it's the kind of thing of like, is this person being pregnant? So even the conversation of being pregnant feels like it has this massive, not stigma, but weight immediately attached to it, because you know that there's a desired outcome and a deeply undesired outcome, which is a lot considering the outcomes here are human lives. But then there's also a difference in the type of content. Now, I'm not going to go through all the content with the daughters because, like I said, there are 3 daughters as far as I understand, so there's a lot of content with them. There's this video, and again, I'm not going to put the video not only because of copyrighted content, but because of the children's faces. And it says, when the girls demand daily trips to Zara plus Target and need to get ice cream after every meal. Now, this is lighthearted, this is whatever, but if we're looking at this through the lens of you're already critiquing your soon-to-be daughter-in-law, and when I say soon-to-be, I mean in like over a decade, but okay, at least over a decade, but okay. It's really weird that you're already critiquing a woman you don't even know, and you don't even know if she exists. And here in this TikTok, the music says you have no money, you're broke, something like that. So it's comedic to say that to children, obviously. But it's also like we're already kind of putting these girls in the bratty position of like, oh, you know, like I don't think she'd be making the same TikTok if her son wanted to go to Target and get ice cream. You know what I mean? So there's this immediate, almost like having a favorite child, but it's not the favorite child, it's the favorite gender. Does that make sense? And I find all of this alarming, and this all returns to my general core stance that children, in terms of like family vloggers, family content, I don't really think children should be on the internet like that. If they're logging on to watch SpongeBob or whatever children watch these days, that's fine. But I do think a certain level of exposure turns dangerous real quick, not only because of the people who are on the internet, but how they're going to be affected in like, even when they see this in 5 years, like what are they going to think? Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.